we ready?
Turn that shit up. You have now entered Staying on Point, powered by Digital Sucker Punch. Discussing all things business, fitness, and marketing. You're about to go on a deep dive interviewing some of the best in the business when it comes to thought leaders, entrepreneurship, and business. Buckle up, put your seatbelts on, you're in for a ride. Okay, and welcome back for another episode of Staying on Point. We've got a fantastic guest with us today, someone that has provided us with hours of entertainment, both online and via Netflix. Yes, via Netflix. I couldn't even do him justice introducing him. I'm just going to read from this, and his resume speaks for himself. This is the co-founder and lead producer at Generation Irons Brands, a Manhattan-based digital media content publisher, broadcaster and producer of strength sports, wellness, bodybuilding, fitness, MMA entertainment, news and original content, reaching over 3 million readers monthly. 3 million, that's a big number. Over the past 10 years, he has also been responsible for developing an extensive content platform, producing and driving all content and media sales, oversees all operations in business development, in-house production, co-production, acquisitions, and manages the company's worldwide media distribution needs. It sounds like this guy's running a one-man show. Yeah, amazing. In 2014, he produced the award-winning film Generation Iron alongside director Vlad, Yudin, and Jeremy Gary, Pumping Iron. The film was narrated by Academy Award-winning nominee Mickey Rourke. I love Mickey Rourke when he was narrating this. His voice was so melodic and soothing. It was fantastic. And became one of the top 5 highest grossing documentaries at the box office in 2013. He negotiated all the domestic and foreign sales on the title and has executive produced the Mr. Olympia show in Las Vegas and the Arnold Classic broadcast. Generation Iron Brands today owns many brands such as Strength Wars, Viral Content Brand, Gym Fuckery, and many other subsidiaries operating in Brazil, Russia, Japan, and Latin America. Since 2015, he has produced many titles such as Jeremy Scott, The People's Designer, based on an iconic fashion designer. Fantastic movie, I've watched that. Featuring Katy Perry. The Hurt Business on Netflix, great movie as well, with Jim Sarnecki, if I've got that right, Bowling for Columbine and Fahrenheit 9/11, featuring Ronda Rousey, and narrated by Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner, what a person to come narrate a movie. And then later produced Generation Iron film installments, Ronnie Coleman, The King, Netflix, Calum Von Moger, great Aussie, Unbroken, and Dorian Yates, Mass Monster, another Hall of Famer bodybuilder out of the UK. Also currently manages talents such as Calum Von Moger, Zach Ainsley, Zach Perner. Seems like there's a bit of a trend going there. It seems like you're recruiting from the Commonwealth. He's passionate about Generation Iron because he believes his stories will continue to reach millions of viewers and tell stories and help motivate and inspire audiences worldwide. Wow, that is an intro. Let me welcome to the stage Edwin, and I'm gonna not do your last name justice. How do I pronounce that? Mejia? Mejia, there we go. Should have asked that beforehand, but the J is an H. I remember that. Mejia.
Yeah. Thank you for the introduction. It was quite the intro, and I'm happy to be on. I've known you, David, for several years, and I've seen we've known each other for a while, and I appreciate you having me on.
My pleasure, and I thank you for coming on. You're a man that has achieved many things, and I want to pick that brain of yours, and I want to entertain. I want to third-party entertain, piggyback off your coattails. So let me kick things off with the obligatory, who are you, where are you, what are you doing, all those sort of W questions. I mean, obviously, I'll give you a bit of an introduction, but, can you give us a bit of a breakdown of, who you are, your humble beginnings, how you came about, operating such a powerhouse network such as the Generation Iron Brands?
Yeah, everything started off basically, when I was in college working in finance. I used to work in Wall Street for about 5-6 years. I worked in finance and Wall Street right close to the end of 2004. And, it was interesting. I mean, I was able to learn a lot in terms of finance. I was managing a big asset management group at Smith Barney at one time. Then I went and worked at Lehman Brothers doing commercial real estate financing. managing a lot of institutional asset management, clients around the world. But 2007 came along, and I've always had a passion for the arts. I've always had a passion for film and documentaries and film and TV. And I teamed up and worked on a few projects with Vlad Yudin at the time, the director who's behind the Generation Iron projects, and we started developing a catalog of films, that we were helping many studios with. At the time, music was very, very tough to sell, so we started creating a lot of documentaries in the field of music and working with Sony, Universal Music, and many others to help market their music catalogs that were not really getting promoted with the change of streaming.
Sure.
And, slowly we realized that we wanted to develop our own catalog and our own content. That this was before Netflix really had a dominance in the streaming world. And we started developing relationships with Amazon, iTunes, Google, Netflix, and we've always been passionate filmmakers at heart. So in 2009, we produced our first feature film, which was Last Day of Summer, with Nikki Reed, who was initially in the movie Twilight, DJ Qualls. The movie, was an independent film that did very well because of the names involved in the movies, and we were able to sell the movie around the world. We sold it to Entertainment One, we sold it to Showtime, movie studios. So we learned a lot about film distribution and sales with that film, and it helped us really solidify a business plan to create a platform for digital media and film. And 2012 came along. We met the producers of the Olympia, the promoters, and we learned a lot about bodybuilding and fitness and wellness overall. And we met guys like Kai Green, Phil Heath, Branch Warren, a lot of the fitness bodybuilders that today, legendary Hall of Fame bodybuilders, and we realized that there's a story to tell there. A lot of these guys just were not being, promoted the right way, or their stories were not going, far enough to reach the right people. And people had a misconception about bodybuilders, and we realized these guys have a lot of depth to them, a lot of character, charisma. There's a story there. And then we teamed up with Jerome Gary, who did the original Pumping Iron, to produce Generation Iron. And we were very happy and fortunate to get people like Arnold involved. Arnold was very happy with the film. We were able to get people like Mickey Rourke involved to narrate the film, which was the godly voice of the movie. And the movie became a massive hit, worldwide. We were able to go out, and I was able to get it out to many different platforms, sell it to Netflix at the time, sell it to Hulu, sold it to ESPN. And it made the rounds, and we realized that we had a huge platform for fitness and bodybuilding, and we wanted to invest into a digital media platform committed to digital media content for film, documentaries, inspiring, also being able to become a digital publisher in the space because we had such a huge following. We basically, converted that audience as well into a digital media audience for content across all social platforms. And, we slowly hired writers as well to come on board and start writing news, editorial content, programs, shows. And, we merged the two worlds of filmmaking, TV content, and editorial publishing with fitness. And, fast forward, we've become Generation Iron Brands has become a global digital media brand that produces digital media content, news, publishing, and also educational programming.
Amazing. Wow. So originally you were a Wall Street guy, which, excuse my ignorance, from Australia, from this end of the world, we see Wall Street, Gordon Gekko, buy, sell, greed is good. Is that just to touch on that briefly before I touch on all the, phenomenal points that you brought up. But, is that what it was about for you back in those days?
Yeah, I grew up loving movies like Wall Street and, these like big finance movies. I just wanted to make money and pay my bills and, have my own things and buy my own house, my own car and everything. And, I learned a lot in that world, and I realized that there's a lot of smart people in finance. In fact, there's way too many smart people in finance and in medicine for the right reasons, I guess. But I learned a lot in that world. I was able to really, develop a sense of work ethic. Sure. And also learn the aspects of finance and be able to develop a business plan and a team, that you can, obviously, use to grow an agenda for your business. And for me personally, I learned so much, but then by 2007 came along, 2008, I wasn't happy. I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel that.
Had good timing too, to want to pivot just before.
Yeah, it really was. And I felt it was the right time to make a move to do something different where I can actually create something tangible and be able to create something with people that are passionate about film or TV. And we did that, and we created a content platform, and I was able to put in my 2 weeks notice in when my boss, they looked at me like I was crazy. And it was a scary time considering it was right before, the fall of the Lehman Brothers and all these bankruptcies and, the mortgage crisis. And, it was a perfect time for me in a way as well, because it helped us really solidify our business and be able to kind of find unique ways of creating opportunities for ourselves with different people that needed them. And we created, Generation Iron and a platform where we can actually create our own content. And that's how everything really developed for us.
And so how was your friends and family supportive, or how did they support you when they just said, hey, listen, I'm gonna go away from Wall Street. I'm going to go from this high paying job, seemingly, I don't know, and then go to follow my passion, follow my dream, follow something that's more tangible, as you said. Did everyone around you think you were crazy, not only just your boss, once you handed in your 2 week notice?
Yeah, my mother thought I was crazy. I mean, my folks thought I was crazy. Everybody thought I was crazy. All my friends thought I was nuts.
Perfect.
Considering I was, a well-paying job, basically had a chauffeur home every night, dinners paid for every night. But, I think till this day, a lot of them still trying to figure out what I'm doing. They see the film, they see the content, but, it's a little different for them.
Sure.
Because they're old school and they come from a background where, you either study medicine, you become an engineer, doctor, or, a lawyer, banker. But, I think they trusted me in the fact that they knew that I was very, I always have a plan B and a plan for everything that I get involved with. And it's all about relationships at the end of the day. So it was interesting. I was able to get a lot of support from friends and family at the time.
That's fantastic.
I was able, it's tough, you live on your savings, but I think as an entrepreneur, you realize that it's your moment to risk it all, right? To create sacrifices for yourself, because you're never going to have that opportunity again. And I look back and I look at it as an opportunity that I took advantage of at the time to be able to develop new skills and new opportunities.
That's phenomenal. And, look where you are now, wind the clock forward.
Yeah, it's always a team thing. I think it's all about who you have around you. And I think about, the people that inspire you, the people that you can work with. I firmly believe that in any venture, any business, you need partners and you need people that, that can help you. I think, that whole solo mentality really doesn't work, at least for me and for people that I know. But if you have the right partner and the right person around you and your business, I think it could take off.
I agree 100%. Business is just a series of relationships and value exchanges. And, it's all about alignment. So, 2013, 2014, Generation Iron movie came out. I actually drove from where I live on the Gold Coast an hour north to a movie cinema that was airing, the only one in Queensland, which is a big state, to actually watch it. Wow. With a buddy of mine. Shout out to Mick Hoger, wherever you are. He was my date for the night. We were both into our bodybuilding at the time, and we went and watched it. It was phenomenal. It was it was actually quite a scene walking into the cinema, and just every participant, what's the word I'm looking for? Everyone going to watch the movie was just a big dude with a chick hanging off their arm, bowl of popcorn on one side. We have choc top ice creams here on this side, like ice cream dipped in chocolate. Big tub of soda, and it was a sight, and it was just everyone walking into the cinemas, no shoulder space. You'd imagine just row after row of big guys, and we watched it, and it was a fantastic movie because it was something that, as people interested in bodybuilding, health, fitness industry, the original pumping iron, 1977 pumping iron was a cult classic for us. It's something we grew up, we watched as teenagers, continue to watch as adults, and then to be able to see a remake of that, or and a continuation of that was, it's like a dream come true for us all. So, how did this all come about? Was it just like, I need to have this continue, this legend needs to continue on, people in this era and this generation need to see the next form of this movie? Please dive in, let me know.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny in that it's like, you saw these videos and these pictures around the country, around the world, where, you go to cities like New York City, right, where you don't have a lot of those hardcore gyms anymore. And you see these big bodybuilders walking into Times Square theaters to watch, Generation Iron. It was pretty fun to see that. For us, it was interesting. I mean, when we met people at the Olympia and the folks there that ran the Olympia and the IFBB, like Jim Mannion and those guys, we realized there was an incredible story, a lot of history in the bodybuilding world, and we were able to meet guys like Jerome that I mentioned, and also George Butler, the director from Pumping Iron, who was so instrumental in introducing us to the sport, learning more about who these guys are. We spent really like 3-4 months with each athlete, doing different castings. Obviously spending 3-4 months with Kai in the middle of Brooklyn in the middle of the summer was pretty interesting.
To say the least, I would say.
Seeing a guy in a hoodie, 95 degrees outside, going to get tilapia and fresh fish at the market was interesting for us. And then, same thing as guys like Phil, Dennis Wolf, all these guys were pretty interesting. And we saw the story. They had a lot of charisma, a lot of humor, a lot of character. There was a lot for us to humanize about their stories, and they'll bring a lot of empathy. And I think we were very fortunate to work on that project with the right people. And I remember at the time people were telling us, "Hey, you should cut the cast to maybe 2 or 3, 4, 3 or 4." But we wanted to include as many people as possible because we felt they all had great stories. Guys like Hidetada Yamagishi, the Japanese bodybuilder. Then you had
Big Hide. They call him. I lived in Japan for a while. They call him Big Hide over there.
Yeah, I love Hide. He's awesome. Yeah. Great story. I mean, we wanted to include everybody's story in it. And Generation Iron was really hard to sell to Hollywood because everybody in Hollywood, they looked at bodybuilding, and then someone still do as a taboo.
I think it is. It is. It's a subculture.
Exactly. Yeah. So, we're coming from the film world, trying to explain to people in entertainment, in the general Hollywood in media landscape, what these athletes really mean and what kind of stories they can tell. It was very hard to get anybody to support the movie. So what we did is we created our own marketing campaign, and we were able to work with the media trades, of course, like Muscle and Fitness, Men's Fitness at the time, Men's Health, and all these big, massive media, magazine trades to help promote the film. And we were able to get Entertainment Tonight, a lot of the TV outlets to come to Gold's Gym to, get a behind-the-scenes look at the movie making. And it was very, very, very interesting. And, getting guys like Arnold and Derek Blessings and obviously Mickey Rourke involved. It was interesting. And we found out Mickey Rourke loves bodybuilding, and it was a perfect marriage for us at that time. And, it made the rounds, and then, we qualified for awards. The film got a few awards as well. Became an award-winning documentary. We made the short list for the Oscars as well. And, we created our own grassroots campaign for the film. And it really spurred the growth. We look at guys like Kai Green today. I mean, we love Kai and what he's become. It's just, he became one of the biggest success stories of 2013 by Hollywood. If you look at trades like The Hollywood Reporter, LA Times, and Huffington Post calling him the greatest moment in film in 2013 on their trades. So it was a lot of fun, getting Kai to come out to these trades and to these screenings and all the athletes as well. And everybody loved the underdog story. That's why Generation Iron did so well, is because in sports, you love the rivalries, right? You love the rivalries. You love the underdog story. Kai obviously represented that, and it's really who he was, who he is.
And was that? I'm assuming that was all intentional, how you portrayed that rivalry between Kai and Phil, and that similar rivalry that was done in the original Pumping Iron between Arnie and
And
Lou Ferrigno, yeah. So I was going to say, yeah, Lou Ferrigno. So I'm assuming that was all intentional because it just had those same elements, that same emotion, that same feeling. And watching this new version of Pumping Iron evoked those same emotions of watching the original Pumping Iron. So it was phenomenal how that was pieced together.
It was, it's filmmaking. It's kind of the perfect world. Sometimes a perfect storm,
Yeah.
And for us, it was kind of the perfect storm. Obviously Phil. I'm a big fan of Phil. I love Phil. I love what he's about, and I think that when you put Kai and Phil together, they're just two completely different people. And they got they became very very hungry and they wanted to win, and I think all of that exuded into the film, and people really really saw it. And it became a rivalry at the time because of how much Kai wanted it, and we didn't really create that rivalry, although the film actually made it. The story came out to seem as it was. I think there was something already brewing there before we really got
And the
involved.
film just exacerbated the whole situation.
Exactly. So
And
and then you know how it's tough. It's tough to make everybody happy sometimes. In filmmaking.
never going to happen. You make everyone happy, you make everyone unhappy. It's one foot in, one foot out. So that was 2013, 14. You had a few years break, and then you came back 2017, 2018 with Generation Iron 2, Generation Iron 3. What was the premise behind them? What was the motivation? How did you sort of keep the juice flowing? Was it just introducing the new breed of bodybuilders? Was it introducing more influencers, sort of coming into a different subsection of the industry?
Yeah, we realized that there was a huge appetite for premium long form content in the fitness bodybuilding space, and that's why we developed a passion for it as well, but also created a platform for it. And we realized after Generation Iron 1, maybe a little later than we should have, but we realized that there was a huge appetite for this content, for these stories.
Massively, yeah.
And nobody was doing it. Nobody is creating it. And we wanted to take the opportunity and make sure that we can create those stories. And then, after Generation Iron 1, we realized that there was a huge phenomenon happening in social media. Social media was changing the world, especially on the fitness side. So you had these massive influencers like Rich Piana, guys like Calum now, that all these different types of guys that and women that are completely changing the landscape of social media, and that are not, people really don't know how these things happen, and the rise of social media that's changed bodybuilding forever. And we wanted to document that and show that on Generation Iron 2. And that's why we did, took the opportunity to make sure we could create a story centered around these guys' lives and showcase what makes them so unique and so popular. And you saw the rise of Rich Piana, you saw the rise of guys like Calum, even Kai as well, and many others that have used social media as a platform to elevate their profiles, but also their businesses.
100%. I remember 2014, we cut a deal with Rich and for our brand at the time, Grip Fitness Accessories. So we're doing gloves and wrist wraps and straps. So we actually got him, paid for him to come over, first time for him to come to Australia and attend the Arnold Classic Melbourne. And at that time, he only had 50,000 followers on Instagram, and he was just messaging and I was ignorant to the whole social media thing, because Australia is probably 2 or 3 years behind what occurs in the States. And he was just constantly on his phone, IG story. I don't think it was IG stories back then. Constantly posting, and I'm like, man, you're here, real life. Let's do this. And then, obviously, he just blew up, So, the power of that, I believe it gave everyone a voice and gave everyone a platform to really amplify their story. And then, obviously, partnering with guys like you and Vlad to make these long form premium content, that just puts it on a whole different level.
Yeah, and I think it was interesting to get those stories. And obviously, when Rich passed away, there was a lot of, people wanted to know a little bit more about him and what he was about. There's a lot of people out there that don't know a lot about the athletes, that are not involved in bodybuilding but are interested. And they're unique stories. And I think that we were able to travel the world. And now in Generation Iron 3, we did the same thing. We captured the world of bodybuilding. We went to over 5 different continents, and we're able to get, the modern day physique, what does that actually mean in the world today? And we were able to go, from continent to continent, getting all these different athletes in the film. And that's what Generation 9 and 3 became. It was a global film on bodybuilding that we felt had to be told, and was not really illustrated or really narrated the right way. And we did that with Generation 9 and 3.
So, I mean, you guys have done The Hurt Business, you've done Ronnie Coleman, The King, you've done Calum Von Moger, Unbroken, Dorian Yates, Mass Monster. What's the process behind selecting these athletes and, wanting to amplify their story? Is it, you do some due diligence and, this guy has a story, we need to tell it, or this guy has the most interesting story, let's tap into it. What's the process behind selecting the athletes that you want to create this content around?
That's a great question. It's interesting. Like I said, with guys like Ronnie Coleman, it was a process where we realized this guy is essentially kind of like a Michael Jordan bodybuilder in a way. And, he's the most winningest bodybuilder ever. Incredible story. Homegrown in Texas, and nobody has told the story. And we realized it was a win-win situation that, and we came together. He agreed. We all wanted to work together. Yeah. So, and then with guys like Dorian Yates, it's an incredible story where you had a guy who's the most winningest bodybuilder in all of, Europe, essentially, right? So he's a guy that we saw transcend the sport, change the sport. We saw a lot of opportunity to tell that story, but also someone who grew up with a troubled childhood, grew to become the biggest name in bodybuilding, got depressed, got into drugs, and then found himself again. There was a lot of moving parts to a story that we felt we could tell. And not only that, Dorian today is still very interesting.
Isn't he what? Like, he does yoga daily.
I've done ayahuasca. It was a truly incredible experience that for me to learn about, and I learned a lot about him, and it was just an opportunity for us to tell the story. My job, my perspective is to be able to create, avenues where the stories can be seen, right? So I want to be able to find as many people around the world to come see our films. So, from my perspective, I look at it as a kind of like a studio executive in a way, right? Where I have to see these stories, and I want to make sure that these stories can go far commercially to a degree, even though bodybuilding and fitness may not be as commercial, although today there is, because we have more of a niche audience. So that's how we select a lot of our projects. And then, you have projects like The Hurt Business, which we did with UFC and Bellator. That was, we worked with Dana White on that project, and Scott Coker, the president of Bellator. And we were able to get guys like Kevin Costner involved with some of the agents that we know in Hollywood. But then you have stories like Calum Von Moger, who, his story is very unique. Grows up on a farm as well in Victoria.
Yeah.
And he has a really, really great loyal following. But I've seen his rise from where he was in 2016 in Generation 9 and 2 to where he is today. And he's someone that's been able to really genuinely help out a lot of people who've been involved with, public service. He's been involved as a volunteer. He's someone that loves to give back. And then I saw that part of the story, and then the struggles that he was facing. And we felt it was the right time to tell a story like that as well for the world. And we were very happy and fortunate to work with Netflix on that.
So, you're working with Calum. You've worked with Ronnie. You worked with Dorian. I believe it was left out the CT movie.
Oh yes, CT. Yes,
CT. How could you forget CT? It's your motherfucking set.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's a film that today we were very proud of. With films, you never know. Sometimes you have a project that you put a lot of hard work, sweat, and effort into, and you might not have it turn out the way you want it to. However, you have a project like CT's film where we came into it. I didn't know much about CT. This is 2015, 2016, and we realized he had a rabid fan base on YouTube. And
Nice.
But yeah, his story was so unique coming from Compton in California, where he had this really broken home with his father. Was one of the biggest names come out of, that area. And then the fact that he almost lost his life, and he was dead at one point. I mean, it was an incredible story to tell, and motivation, in terms of motivation, that's exactly the type of stories you want to tell. And it snowballed into something really, really massive for us. And that movie, till this day, is seen around the world, and we get so much praise for it, and people love CT because of it. And, we have guys like The Rock telling us how much he loves that movie. It's really humbling, honestly, to get that type of attention and feedback from people like that as well.
Certainly. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that movie when I watched it. It definitely, painted a picture or showed a picture about him that I never even knew. So, I definitely believe you guys do a fantastic job into digging in deep and shouldn't say exposing, but amplifying the true person that you're, creating these documentaries around. So it's a credit to you guys' ability.
Thank you. Yeah, we try, at the end of the day, we try to make sure that there are some stories that go further than others, but at the end of the day, we really try to do our best to create content that can inspire different people for whatever the subject matters that they love. Some people might love CT, some people might love Calum, some people have different interests. So we want to be able to have a very diversified content pool for audiences that are looking for different things within the same niche.
On that note, the Jeremy Scott movie, that's left field. What?
Yeah, it is very left field. In fact, we have projects like Jeremy Scott, projects like Last Day of Summer. We've done some music documentaries that people have no idea about that have done well as well. But we have another label of our company which focuses on more alternative type of content, like fashion docs. That was an interesting film because we've always been friends with Jeremy. Jeremy is someone that, we saw rise through, him making the Adidas wing sneakers that people know him from, to now becoming the head of Moschino, the creative director for Moschino. And we were able to learn a lot about that. And mostly it was happening while we were filming. We wanted to film a story about his life because he was somebody who grew up in a farm, grew up.
There seems to be a theme here with the guys that grow up in the farms.
Yeah,
you just pluck them from the rural areas.
It's also kind of identifying a little bit more with their stories.
Yeah.
Trying to understand, what they went through. I think guys like Jeremy have been bullied as a kid. He feel like he didn't belong. Those are stories that resonated with us. It's also an underdog story. It's a rag to riches story because he was someone that people really left out and thought that he would never amount to much. He worked his way, created his own fashion event in Paris with all the money that he had to create his own events. And, we were very fortunate to work with people like Katy Perry, Rita Ora, A$AP Rocky,
Very cool.
Skrillex, a lot of different, celebs on that movie that were big fans of Jeremy. And we were very happy with the result of that movie. We were also able to get that released with Netflix as well. We have different types of content, of course, that when we do partnerships with different companies, that was more of like a partnership with Jeremy because we wanted to tell his story to the fashion world. So we were able to partner up with Fashion Week in New York. We were able to partner with companies like Vogue magazine, all these fashion outlets, and do something very similar to what we did in the fitness world, in fashion. And, it's all about the story. For us, it's all about creating the right content with the right story.
And what umbrella does that fall under? Is it the Generation Iron brands, or have you pushed it?
So that one falls that we have a label on the Vlad, which is the Vlad Films. So that's our distribution entity. We use that entity to produce and direct movies on that side, and distribute movies on that side that are not traditionally under the Generation Iron banner.
Fantastic. So back under the Generation Iron banner, what, if you can divulge, is next? Who do you want to create a story around next, or who have you got in the pipelines?
Yeah, that's a good question too. We right now are working on a sequel of sorts to Generation Iron. We are working on a Natty documentary.
What?
natural bodybuilding.
Natty, Natty
Yeah.
bro, Natty. Okay, gotcha.
So we were working with
Is that in parentheses or is that no?
so the movie's actually called Generation Iron Natty for Life.
Okay.
So what we're doing with that project, we're working with NABA, which is the Natural Olympia
Yep.
here in the States. And we're working with them, Iron Man Magazine, and a few companies as well to create this film. And this film is actually getting pretty much finished. We're actually looking to release it in early July.
Fantastic.
So we have, people like Michael Hearn in it.
Yep.
We have a lot of the natural bodybuilder guys in it as well. Some of these guys are like, believe it or not, are FBI agents. It's pretty intense. They're pretty serious guys. It's very different than the bodybuilders that you see today. They're not real. They don't have big social media followings. They're very private type of people. But it's an interesting world we live in because people want to be able to be natural. People want to live a lifestyle where, they want to know how it is to feel natural, right? Sure. And how these athletes are actually competing naturally. And we actually get to showcase that in the film and see how they do the drug testing. It's pretty interesting documentary. And then we have a movie called Strength Wars and the brand that we own, which might end up being a series as well. We got guys like Larry Wheels involved, Blaine Sumner, who's also known Vanilla Gorilla, Anabolic Horse from Germany. We have all these guys in it, and it's a really cool film because it has such a rabid fan base on YouTube as well. It has like 1.2 million subscribers. The page has gotten so much momentum in Europe. And now we're taking that story and creating an actual film with all these big athletes in the strongman, powerlifting, and CrossFit space.
And CrossFit space.
Yeah, so we're merging them all together.
Is that where the wars come in play? Is that exactly. The war? You're
pitting bodybuilders against strongmen against powerlifters, and CrossFit. It's all one world in competition, and people want to see that.
Wow, fight to the death.
So we've been shooting that in Dubai, the States, Germany, across the world, and we're excited about that. And we have another project called Bigorexia on body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people say, oh, that doesn't really exist, but it does exist. We've seen it happen. We have some really interesting people on that project with some high-profile doctors as well. And that project's in edit right now. We've been shooting that all over the world: Brazil, Russia, Europe, U.S. It's going to be an interesting film, and that's slated for I would say August, September.
So there's a bit in the pipeline.
It is. We work 1 year ahead, so we're very with this pandemic, it's very interesting because we were obviously in a situation where we're a production company, but we're a media company. We're all about production. But we work 1 year in advance, and we're very fortunate to be able to work 1 year in advance. And we have our editors and our team working remotely right now. So the key for us is to continue operating the way we are, digitally and remotely.
You mentioned before that you're really tapping into those sort of countries like Russia, Brazil, Latin America. What's the mentality behind that? Is it just purely population and density? You're just trying to get the masses. Why target those countries opposed to your traditional sort of top 5 English-speaking geos?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, right now, Generation Iron has a lot, a big following within the traditional English-speaking countries, and we want to be able to continue to expand, and obviously places like Australia. But I think that for us, it's important to continue to create localized content in big regions like Brazil, South America, Russia as well, Japan. I mean, our goal is to continue, we realize people consume content differently in different regions. So we have franchises, for instance, in Brazil, our Generation Iron Brazil franchise creates a lot of localized content there with the localized athletes. And we have a project with Felipe Franco, who's this guy who's the biggest name in Brazil with over 3 million, followers, has 1.2 million YouTube followers. So we're creating a lot of localized content in Brazil that works there that may not work in other regions, of course. And we're scaling it that way. And then we do the same thing in Russia, where we have a big Russian subsidiary, Generation Iron Russia, creating localized content. And we did a big event there called the Slap Contest that people...
The what?
I don't know if you've seen the big slap contest where these
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. I just had to check. I was like, slap? Big guys slapping each other?
Yeah, so we created this big event over there, the Russian slap contest with Dumpling, this big husky guy that you probably seen with the beard,
Yeah.
and it went viral. This was about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. It went viral, and we were getting calls from every major studio that wanted to cover it, from Fox to CNN to Vice. They just thought the content was surreal and they wanted to feature it. And now we were able to get people like Logan Paul involved to do the slap contest, but he actually ended up, skipping out because he was a little scared at the end.
Skipping out. You said that very politely there.
Well, this actually grew up. This thing grew so fast that it created a movement. I mean, you have ESPN now featuring slap contests. It's just crazy. I mean, but we're doing things like that. We still feature bodybuilding. Strongman has become such a huge thing now. And at the end of the day, it's all about low price content for us. So that's what we're going to continue to grow.
Sure. So let me switch things up a little bit more and delve away from the business side of things and sort of go a little bit more personal to you. So currently, what sort of excites you outside of the business world, keeps you entertained? Obviously, we've got restrictions going on in the world, but is there anything that sort of keeps you excited and keeps you grounded and keeps you sane outside of doing business and what you love?
Yeah, I do. I'm part of a big nonprofit here in New York, where I'm a board member for BronxNet, where I'm able to help students and kids that want to learn, that don't have the resources to know what it is to get into digital media, know what it is to get into film. When I was in school, I didn't know what digital media or film was, right? So I didn't know there was a career in it. So I'm able to go to these schools and help give back and help kids learn a little bit more about training, understand digital media careers. I also help create opportunities for filmmakers with our board to help create more exposure for them. For me, it's also important to just stay active.
Sure.
One thing that bodybuilding and Generation Iron has, provided for me and giving me access to is being able to have more of an active lifestyle. I think that continues to be the number one thing for me, and being able to do something active every day that involves whether lifting, running, and that's important for me, of course. And obviously, being able to help family. That's the thing that helps me, keeps me motivated and continues to drive me every day. So, being in New York is a little tough right now, considering the pandemic and how everything is closed here. But, we're doing everything we can to make sure we progress. And for me, it's all about staying active every day and staying engaged with everything that's happening. The news is running so fast, but I want to be able to continue to stay active.
So are you smack bang right in New York City, like a particular borough? Whereabouts are you located?
Yeah, we're right in the middle of Chelsea.
Yep.
Right in the middle, and so 49th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue, and right smack in the middle. But thankfully we're in a situation where it's not too bad. Where you can go outside and you can actually go for a run.
That's good. That's good.
But it's an interesting time here for sure. I'm sure we'll get by it, and things will definitely change for the better.
Yeah, it is interesting. Like, we've always been pretty laxed here in Australia, and I think the Prime Minister here has just announced that as of today they're going to be opening up pubs, drink, where you can go drink. Not gyms. You can't go back to gyms, but you can go back to bars and clubs. So go figure. I don't. It must be their way of trying to re-stimulate their economy, or I don't know. For a society to choose, hey, maybe we'll go drink instead of do exercise. I don't know. It sounds a bit counterproductive to me, but that's what's happening down here in Australia at the moment.
Yeah, you won't see that in New York too, anytime soon, of course. No. I mean, here, it's since it's ground zero, so to speak. Now it's more about opening, in the right regions of New York. I think New York City will be the last city to open in the States, in my opinion. But who knows?
And so you talk a little bit about, your family support and your mother being a big inspiration for you. Do you have your family close by? Are they all around New York area? Yeah.
Yeah, my mother, she came to this country with nothing. I mean, she lives in this area. She's in Queens. I grew up in Queens, New York, and one of the boroughs. And she's been a big inspiration to me because she's someone that came in with nothing and obviously built, her own business, her own real estate business, and was able to help support 4 kids.
Wow.
So it was, I do look at her as a huge inspiration to me to this day, and I try to be the best person I can be because of her.
Yeah, fantastic. And if you don't mind me asking, what is your heritage? What's your background? Where did your mother come from?
Yeah, my folks were from the Dominican Republic initially. So
very nice. I was actually in the Dominican Republic last year.
Yeah, I think we spoke briefly when you said you were going there.
Yeah.
But I think I remember that. I mean, it's a beautiful island. I mean, I hope you had a good time.
I had a fantastic time. Well, we had a big villa. We were like pretty much in this big, massive villa. There was about 30 odd people that we hired. It was phenomenal. So we didn't really get to explore and see sort of the local scenery, so to say. It was like either on a villa or on a catamaran or on the beach or something. But what I did see of it, it's a beautiful place. Yeah, beautiful place.
That's where my folks are from originally, and I have folks. My great grandfather was actually German, and then I have folks. A bit of a mix, but mostly all of them are from Dominican Republic.
Fantastic. And New York, why New York? That just, to me, that seems so overwhelming. I must say that's now in, current times, maybe back then when a lot of migrants went there and it was all about, the country of dreams, opportunities, and, you get what you put in sort of thing.
I feel like a part of them thought the same way. So they wanted to kind of grow a family and grow a future in New York because they felt that created the most opportunity for them.
Yep.
I think during their era, obviously it did. I think we're in a different world now where, the opportunities are not quite the same, in terms of creating the so-called American dream, right?
Yeah.
So, it's quite interesting, but I think, I do think that I thank them for giving me the opportunities. I think there's a lot of opportunities in New York. There's a lot of different ways to go. If you want to go in finance, media, fashion, there's a lot of opportunities. That's one of the great things about New York. But it's a very high-paced place, of course, and I think, the good thing is you can start off here and go someplace else, and I've seen a lot of my friends and family moves around the world too. So.
Phenomenal. And just being conscious of time, and we're just getting to that point, I want to dive in and talk about your bucket list. So, you've achieved a phenomenal amount of things in your lifetime, from working on Wall Street, high-end finance to developing this media-based company and, being able to touch, millions of people all over the world, telling a story, promoting an industry, being an advocate for an industry, not only your, charitable causes, but what are some things on your bucket list that you want to achieve before the day ends for Edwin?
That's a great question. I mean, I think for me, it's all about believing in giving back in a way where I can educate. I think that's been the biggest passion for me. I used to play baseball in college. So when I played baseball in college, it brought me a lot of happiness because it's something I was very passionate about and I loved it so much. It just wasn't good enough to get to the next level. But I realized that in a way where it helped me produce a lot of, skills, and it helped me develop a lot of skills where, where it's teamwork and work ethic. But for me, the most important thing is to be able to create, everlasting education for youth and people that I can help, develop and help create, programs for. And if that's a school, whether that's some sort of form of education, I want to be able to get to a point where I can, find an opportunity to create talent and help develop and cultivate talent for youth. And it's something that I've been very passionate about, especially during my time as a counselor as well, when I used to be a counselor.
Whoa, hang on. Pulls a rabbit out of the hat there. Okay, interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
That's one thing I think, for me is just also being able to, continue to be very close to my family and be able to continue to see them prosper. But it's all about education and learning. I want to be able to continue to learn every day and at the same time be able to give that back somehow, because I've been very fortunate to get so much knowledge and have the right mentors in my life to be able to create opportunities for myself,
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Hey, listen, if anyone ever wanted to reach out to you or your organization, or, can you give us the WWs? Can you give us, the ats or the emails, whatever it may be, that if anyone ever wanted to reach out to you for whatever reason in terms of business opportunities or strategic partnerships, or, your philanthropical adventures, whatever it may be, please lay it out for our listeners.
Yeah, no, the best way to reach us, it's generationline.com, obviously, and also, our Instagram, my Instagram, Edwin Mejia _JR Junior. And that's really the fastest and easiest way. Obviously, I also have a LinkedIn page I'm very active with, so you can reach me on there as well. I'm looking for Junior. So that's the best way to find us, and be happy to, work with anyone and talk about any of my experiences that I can help them.
Fantastic. Hey, Edwin, I really appreciate you having on Staying on Point. It was a pleasure to dive in and learn about you, your business, and everything that you're up to. You've achieved phenomenal things. I'm speechless. Thank you very much.
It's really humbled, and thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you again very soon.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to Staying on Point. Tune in with us on our next episode as we dive in, interviewing other fantastic guests, finding out exactly what makes them tick and how they've achieved their success.